That's what these kids need to go and sit and watch, an actual court case, because that is showing you. You think because nobody's talking, you're getting away with it. You ain't getting away with it. They can build that up from the slightest little bit. They're absolute masters at what they do. And I sat and I thought to myself in court, I thought, these kids think they're bad. They think, they're bad and they're above everybody. These are the bad people. Do you know what I mean? And these, you've got to take your hat off to them, because it is brilliant. I mean, when Brett first died, witnesses weren't coming forward, and obviously CCTV got sent off, and they said, although we've got it, it's got to be sent off. They said, don't worry about it, we can find a body. Don't. We're nothing. No idea who's done it. He goes, but by the time we've done, we can tell you where, who, and when.
Often families aren't allowed to move on as they find themselves in the middle of a complex police investigation and court proceedings, waiting for someone to be arrested, proven guilty and then sentenced. Forensic pathologist Dr. Alfredo Walker is responsible for conducting the post-mortem examinations on behalf of the police to determine the medical cause of death in cases of homicide and suspicious death.
We are now in the autopsy suite preparing to perform a post-mortem examination. This is where my role as forensic pathologist comes in terms of identifying the injuries present on the body and determining the medical cause of death. A forensic post-mortem examination is a medical legal examination. That is, there are two sides. There's a medical aspect, which simply deals with determining the cause of death, and there's a legal aspect in which evidence collection occurs to assist the police in a criminal prosecution. For me to perform my function as a forensic pathologist to determine the cause of death, it is necessary to employ the use of instruments to help me in my dissection of the body. If I can now take you to the dissection bench across there to show you the range of instruments which are involved. This is called a PM40, a post-mortem 40 blade, and it's the main tool that we use to assist in the dissection of the body. There's a smaller blade, which is called a scalpel, which is also used to dissect and cut into smaller vessels. For injuries to the head, the inside of the head can be examined using this electric saw to saw into the skull bone and remove the skull cap. A pair of forceps to hold delicate tissues, larger knives to slice into the larger organs, and to effect the removal of the chest wall, this is a pair of rib shears which helps me to cut across the bony ribs. A post-mortem examination is a destructive process in which the body is examined to determine the nature of the injuries and the extent of the injuries. That said, it's not as destructive as knife crime, taking a life. Once these procedures are done, then all the organs can be weighed on that electronic scale there, the weights recorded, and my conclusions can then be given to the investigating officers as to the cause of death, the manner of death, numbers of injuries involved, whether there were any defensive injuries, etc., etc. This basically is what post-mortem examination entails.
Hundreds of hours are spent working around the clock to gather evidence needed to secure a conviction. For some families, the conviction is the start of their rebuilding, whilst for others, it offers little more than a consolation for what they have lost.
It was I fretted about going, and it did bring it all back up again, and it brought up more of the anger than the upset. You know, I was very angry, still am very angry. I can't grieve properly because I'm still angry. There's still things every day. With my case, with Arbrett's naming newspaper, you know, with one thing and another. So my grieving process, I don't even think it started properly yet, but I'm glad I went. I'm glad I went to trial.
Well, you try and switch off and you can't. It's with you all night. You're dreaming about it all night. It's so devastating to have to look at the person that's took your child's own life. It's really hurting, yeah. So
obviously, when verdict, I was obviously nervous waiting for the verdict to go through. It's 2.5 days. And when we went through into, when they said verdicts here, I could not believe. I thought I was going to blow up. I've never been like that in my life, even when he died. Right, calm and level-headed and everything. That I was shaking, like uncontrollable. I couldn't, my liaison officer outside of me were holding me because Jack, all the CID were down in the court, were looking up at me because this weren't somebody they knew. You know, this is all, my liaison officer saying, Jack, you've been so strong, come on now, pull yourself together. I couldn't even look. I couldn't even look at the judge, I couldn't look at them. I couldn't look at anybody. I was just like that, and I'm saying, but you don't understand. This is my life now. This verdict is determining my life. Because if these walk, my life's over. The judge gave him 19 years a year for every life of Kimberley. But since that, after 2 years he appealed and got two years knocked off the sentence. To me, he wanted 2 more years putting on. I still think life should mean life. And I really do, yeah.
It put me off at first because the CPS, the Crown Prosecution, said if it goes to trial, it could get set free, or, you know, it could get done for murder, or would we accept his plea of manslaughter? So we decided to go to trial. And then when it came to the verdict, it was unanimous with jury. They found him guilty. So we all jumped up and cheered, like, yeah. So it's what we wanted. We got justice for him.
For the people responsible, they are left to reflect on the damage they have caused and the things they could have done differently.
Being caught possession of a knife, that was years ago.
Road rage, that's all it turned out to be at first.
Drink. The defence was it was initially attempted murder, but it got dropped to wounding with intent.
I've been smoking crack on and off for like about 10 years, so I was starting to do robberies and that, and knife point robberies for either drug dealers or people who were scoring drugs.
At the time I killed him, you know, people around me, people my age, or, you know, people affiliated with gangs and stuff, thought it was almost a cool thing.
I had a knife on me, which I've had a knife on me for the past 4, maybe 5 years. I have done a couple of slashes and one stabbing in past, which were through turf, not turf, but not gang related, but groups disagreeing.
If we wouldn't have taken the knives with us, we don't think it would have gone as far as it did. The knife kind of gives you courage, you know, and it's a fake courage because there was no intention of using them. They were taken as a confidence booster. We've gone in and we've just basically lost control. There was no thinking. As soon as the doors opened, we charged in. The knives have come out and we've started stabbing people up in the house.
I'm doing an indeterminate sentence, 3.5 years, so after being in 3.5 years, I go up for parole and they decide whether I'm dangerous to the public or not.
When you're in jail, you know who your friends are, and none of them are. Maybe my best mate, he's been in touch, but he's not into drugs or anything out there, so when I do see him and hang about with him, I know I can't get into trouble with him.
We don't really truly have any friends out there, you know, people are always after something. There's ulterior motives to everything, so.
Me, I didn't see my friends as a sort of gang, although other people can perceive it as a gang. It was almost like, you know, a crew, as people generally say.
So, but none of my mates who I thought were my friends, no letters, no nothing. So you do know who your friends are when you're inside. You're forgotten about.
you're killing people over a postal code or area, okay, because somebody strayed into your area, but for what? When your family are coming to see you and your mother and father are crying, your nephews are growing up, you're missing all their lives, and you ask for what? Because you killed somebody that just stepped into your area. It is really ridiculous. This guy's my enemy, I don't care what happens to him, but believe me, that changes.
I feel sorry for what I've done. I nearly killed someone, you know, and there's not a day I don't regret it. And I know if we didn't go equipped with knives, then none of this had happened. I'd still be free. But also, I'd still be making bad choices more than likely, you know. And jail has been a godsend in a way. Yeah, it's got me back on the straight and narrow. He's probably seen his life flash in front of him, and for me, it was like it was nothing, but for him, it was probably everything.